So welcome back to Conversations on a Bench. I'm here with the man, the legend, Mr. Humberto Lopez. Welcome.
Who are you talking to?
I know, just, it's true. But I'm so
You cracked
honored.
me up.
I'm honored to have you here.
Well, thank you.
You are a legend in this town. Chairman of HSL Properties, which is a mogul multi-housing company that you built from scratch. And more important than that, Bert, I love to say that everybody knows, the success that you've had in your life, but not many people know just the impact of your heart that you have on people. Your heart is bigger than your checkbook, if you can even imagine that. But so true, and we had the privilege of getting to know each other through the wonderful opportunity of the Center of Opportunity. And so welcome to Conversations on the Bench. We've been talking 24 hours to different people that have different stakeholders, different business owners, the county, the city, just to talk about homelessness. What are we going to do to work together to solve the problems? One of the shining solutions in Tucson is the Center of Opportunity. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get into the story about how the Center of Opportunity came to be.
Well, first of all, let me ask you, who paid you to say all those beautiful words about me?
Nobody. It comes legitimately from my heart.
Okay. So what, let me think about that. Why did I decide to do the Center of Opportunity?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I really don't know. The property came up for sale, and as I've told you many times, that I had seen another homeless shelter in Phoenix that was providing some of the services, 9 services, and so they had 9 different nonprofits operating within the center, but the place looked like a homeless shelter. Mm-hmm. I love what they were doing, and having several nonprofits operating in one property and one campus. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why I thought, and that'd be great if we could bring all the nonprofits into one place, one campus where they could all operate together. As you well know, these people homeless, we call them guests here, so
right.
Forgive me for saying homeless, because they're our guests. Mm-hmm. But by bringing them all together in one campus, it avoided they're missing a lot of the appointments that we're giving from one nonprofit to another. These people are walking, riding bikes, mm-hmm. or public transportation. The probability of going from one nonprofit to another to get their services was probably nil.
Right.
So this property comes up for sale. It was an operating hotel, and as you well know, mm-hmm. HSL Property owns a number of hotels. When it came up for sale, I immediately jumped at the opportunity. And made an offer to close in 10 days, 5-day due diligence, I think it was. Mm-hmm. We closed all cash in 10 days. With the idea, when I bought it, immediately it sprung the idea of bringing all these nonprofits into one campus. But what do I know about running a homeless shelter? So then I proceeded to invite a number of different nonprofits to see who would be willing to take the undertaking of converting the property to a homeless shelter. Well, no one else did until you came along. Gospel Rescue Mission came along.
Yes, please.
And it was a partnership made in heaven. You completely fulfilled everything I was looking for, because one of the requirements was to treat these people with dignity, respect, and love. No different than I would treat you or anyone else. Could be the president, senator, congressman. We're all human beings. We're all equal. Yep. There's no difference to me as far as I'm concerned. So I was very fortunate that, and as a matter of fact, I think you had just come on board, mm-hmm. and you were accelerated when you came and saw the property, because if I recall, you were looking already and raising the funds to build a little bigger facility than the one you had in South Tucson, mm-hmm. which had, I believe, 55 mm-hmm. homeless beds, mm-hmm. and you were looking to expand to provide more services and more beds. So when this came along, you couldn't resist but saying yes. So you said, well, one condition: you got to go to the board of directors of Gospel Rescue Mission and sell them on the idea. Well, my wife and I went, and I think we got a unanimous vote.
Unanimous vote for us to take you up
Thank
on the
you.
opportunity. It was a difficult financial decision for us.
I bet it was.
He's a hard negotiator.
Yeah,
and
but
we
you
have
still haven't paid me.
we have a 99-year lease for $1 a year, and you say that, but I pay you that dollar every year. And he makes me pay it every year to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do. We're being good tenants. So the partnership has been amazing, Bert. We've told the story hundreds of times, but more importantly about the work that it's doing here in Tucson, we've captured the attention of the nation. It was always a desire of yours and a dream of yours. Hey, if we do this well, that it can be a model for the nation. And, we were open 8 months. COVID happened. We had all these little bumps that just helped us navigate things as we went along, and just organically, because we're doing the work well, and we serve and we love people well, that we've had 18 different states and cities and 3 different countries, come specifically to come see us at the Center of Opportunity so that they can do something similar in their city and states. And so what you envision for that as a model for the nation, is coming to pass. We prepared ourselves to, have a business plan, and a manual, if you will, that will give people, the A to Z on how to do a Center of Opportunity in their city and state. So we're working as those doors of opportunity open for us. We're walking through those doors. But, Bert, your compassion started way before the offer of this hotel. So you yourself have experienced poverty in your own life, and I know that that's where the compassion towards the poor really comes from. Not many people know that you have that in your past. If you don't mind telling a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, let me go back a little bit here. When I came up with the idea of opening this Center of Opportunity, I never envisioned it to be this successful. Nevertheless, I did register the name Center of Opportunity throughout the country because I thought if it was successful, we'd take it nationwide. Mm-hmm. And hopefully we'll see that one day while I'm still alive.
Yep.
Hopefully a lot of years still left.
Yes, you do.
Well, what happened when my father passed away at a young age. I was the oldest of 6. We moved from Mexico with my grandmother in Nogales, Arizona, into a 3-bedroom house, 1 bathroom. My uncle and my mother's brother lived there. So all of a sudden there were 6 kids, me the oldest, the youngest 1.5, and 3 adults in 1 bathroom. We made, I wouldn't want to change it at all. Yeah. I think we had a great life, great upbringing. So consequently, I started working at the age of 12, and have always worked. And I'll give every dollar to my mother. Started selling newspapers, and that's where I learned how to double your money.
Yep.
I used to buy 2 newspapers for 7 cents, and sold each one of them for 7 cents. So when I sold 2, I had paid 7 cents. I'd made 14 cents. So I was doubling my money.
Yep.
So I still follow the concept.
So you've been an entrepreneur ever since then.
Then I started working in a grocery store, 44 hours a week. Go to school from 8 to 3. At 3 o'clock, I run over to the grocery store, leave after mopping the store at 10:30, get home by 11. I never did any homework. Consequently, when I graduated, I wanted to go to university. Excuse me. And my counselor told me I was not college material. Well, I was not a good student. Never did any homework.
A lot of entrepreneurs aren't college material.
Well, I think, as a matter of fact, I think most of my friends that are very wealthy did start out with anything. And a few of them never even went to college, never graduated. Mm-hmm. So I decided, well, God darn it, I still want a college education. So I went to Cochise College, a junior college. It had just opened in 1964, I believe. So I went there the second year in 1965. Graduated in 2 years, took 18 credits every semester. Didn't know that 18 credits was a lot of work, but I had to work a work ethic. I'm a hard
Yeah.
worker.
Yeah, you are.
Then I transferred to the university. I could have graduated in 3 years, but I went all the way and graduated in 4 years with more credits than I needed because I wanted to take as many accounting courses that I could. I wanted to be an accountant where I could then learn what business I was going to get into, even though I didn't have any money. So
Well,
it was-
it's you had high standards for yourself,
Yep.
and you knew that you had everything in you to accomplish, a life of success. So the rest is history. We all know the important work that you've done, both in our development of our city and many other cities, and so let's talk about the Center of Opportunity a little bit. So you mentioned going to the organization in Phoenix that was called CAS, the Central Arizona Shelter Services, and which we went to, and we learned what not to do, right? Because it is basically
That's the first
has
thing I
the
told you.
appearance of a correction facility. But we knew if we were going to do this, we would provide a place where people felt safe, they felt welcomed, their dignity was restored, that they were respected. And, if we did that, we could remove the barriers of, people come to us and their hearts are hardened. They trust nobody, they trust nobody. So the first big feat that we have is to kind of wrap our arms around them and love them to where they trust us enough to really get the help that they deserve and they respect. So I guess I want to say, thank you for the opportunity. It's been, it's been monumental in my own personal life, which has been amazing in itself, but way more important than your story, my story, is that thousands of people every single year are getting help through the Center of Opportunity. And, you come through and you hear the stories. We're both moved to tears often just with the stories of restoration that the individuals and the guests that are experiencing, under our care, which is just so humbling and such a privilege to be a part of it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Let me thank you. Your ambition, your hard work, your passion, your love to help these people has
Right.
made it possible. Without you, I don't think we'd have the success that we have today. You are an example for the country. When others open throughout the
Right.
country, I hope you can clone yourself.
Maybe we'll have that available or that
There's only
opportunity to
one
do
Lisa
that.
out there.
Oh my goodness. Well, behind every good work is an amazing team. So, but I really want us to talk about, and you're so unique this way. But obviously you're in the company of people that have enormous wealth. And so I hear you talk often about a lot of people with this enormous wealth aren't generous givers. They're not philanthropists like you are. I hear you say over and over and over again, I can't take it with me, which Serena always says, you better leave me some money.
She's taken care of.
But we were recently talking about a conversation that you had with somebody, and so tell everybody a little bit about why you're generous, where that comes from, and why it's important for other people of monumental wealth to give back.
Well, first of all, I believe I'm very blessed. And I'm a firm believer that to those who much has been given, we have a responsibility to give back. As a matter of fact, I've been sharing the quotes of the day that and a lot of them go back to Dale Carnegie as to what he believed and what wealth is supposed to be used for. So I'm a firm believer that we have a responsibility. We can't take it with us. I've got everything I need. My children are taken care of. So any excess is going back to the community. My wife and I have made a pledge that 100% of our wealth is going to the H.S. Lopez Family Foundation to continue doing the work that we've been doing for many years. The foundation was started in 2004, even though we've been contributing to a number of profits way before that. As a matter of fact, when we first came to Tucson in 1980, we took our daughter Giovanna, we'd take her. As a matter of fact, it was the Gospel Rescue Mission Thanksgiving meals, so she could help out, and we'd take whatever we could to help. But we wanted her to see the giving back to the community. So we try to raise her children in that manner. As a matter of fact, my daughter now and her husband are known in Orange County as being philanthropists. That makes me very
Chip
proud.
Off the old block.
Yes. So, I am a firm believer of giving back. And if I can figure out how to take a little bit of money with me, I'm going to save it so I can have some spending money wherever the Lord wants me to go.
Yeah, I believe we're not going to need it when we get there. But
that's my thoughts.
Yeah, so
you got to spend it during your lifetime and give it away during your lifetime.
So I will say too, and this is, the Center of Opportunity is only one entity, in which the Lopez Family Foundation gives to. Do you have any idea over your lifetime of the foundation how much money you've given away?
Yeah, we in the last 10 years we've given $77 million.
That's
we
incredible.
keep track. My office keeps track of every nonprofit we've given money to, so we know over the years how much we have given to each nonprofit. So
that's amazing.
So,
I mean, more money than people will ever see in a lifetime, and that's just what you're able to give away.
Every time I give $1, my net worth doesn't go down; it goes up.
You can't
I get
outgive
rewarded.
God.
No, I cannot give it away.
Outgive God.
No.
So it's a biblical principle, right?
Well,
you give it away, and it shall be given to you. Pressed down, shaken together, overflowing, and that's what you're experiencing in your life.
But everybody can give. You don't have to give money. You can volunteer. Give your time, which is just as valuable as making a monetary contribution.
Everybody has their part.
Absolutely.
Some part is to write a check.
Yep.
Some part is to give of their time. We take in-kind contributions from the community. So every piece of clothing, every piece of furniture that you give here goes back 100% free back to individuals who need it. There's so many different ways that people can partner together with the work that we're doing here and can, live a blessed and philanthropist life without having to give a penny. So you're absolutely right. And that brings fulfillment to our lives. So many people say, "Oh, I'm going to volunteer to help people." Well, what happens in return, is that the volunteer actually gets so much more out of it than the acts of service. So,
my being involved with the charities and giving and contributing has prompted HSL Properties and my employees to follow the same principles that I believe in. They're always out there contributing, doing whatever they can to help the homeless. Right now, just a week or two ago, they had the blood drive. We also collect food, have the stuff the bus drive every year. We collect more food than any other organization. They have drives to collect goods and clothing.
Right.
So they're always looking for opportunities to help the community and make it a better place for all of us to live.
Absolutely. I'm going to brag on your staff a little bit, which they're amazing, but I'll spotlight Michelle, your CFO. So her office actually is a donation center. So she has everybody from your whole entire staff bring in their clothing and their furniture and everything, and it fills her office to the point where she's just like, "Lisa, can you come pick up all these things?" Or she drops them off here. So your staff is you're replicating yourself through your staff too, because you're that example of giving. And they have the opportunity through their job to give back to the community, so they're making, you're changing their lives in that way.
What about
too.
Lisa Rosenfeld?
What's that?
Lisa Rosenfeld.
Lisa Rosenfeld. I know I was just going to just say that. Michelle is just one person, but Lisa Rosenfeld should have an office here at the Center of Opportunity. She is here so often, bringing tours of people, just bringing awareness to the work we're doing, bringing grant money to us. The Arizona Multi-Housing Association has given us so much money through the years from the advocacy of Lisa Rosenfeld. And so HSL has, been a great partner for us, from you all the way down. Omar is a great support, in the work that we're doing. So thank you for that. You've been an amazing partner. You said it already, that it was a match made in heaven. But the partnership has enriched my personal life, as well as, enriched and impacted thousands and thousands of people that we serve here. Just touch on the numbers a little bit. Since we've been open for 6.5 years, we've served over 18,000 people. We put 2,500 people in brand new housing, right? That's like those that are unhoused. I'm not going to dog on the city or the county, but they don't even come close to those numbers. We put 2,000 people in brand new jobs. That has a economic impact of the city dramatically. So those are just some of the big overarching numbers. Workforce development, is we've taken a more robust approach on that. You were a huge part of getting Pima Community College here to work as a partner at the Center of Opportunity. For 4 years, we've been working with Pima College to bring what we call rapid certification for higher paying jobs. That was important to you from the get-go. It took some leverage to get the then chancellor on board, and then with help with your matching grant for them, helped them create a fund that gave all of this, education opportunities so that people can actually get a Pima Community College education for free. They can get a certification here for free. That's unheard of, Bert, that people are just, this is unique in so many different ways.
Lisa, also what a lot of people don't realize, and the reason we're able to do what we do here, is that Gospel Rescue Mission doesn't take any public funds. Mm-hmm. It's all contributions by the public, by people like me, even a $20, $10 contribution. I don't know how many contributors you have, but it's got to be in the thousands.
16,000 active
16,000.
Mm-hmm.
And your budget tripled when you move from one facility to this facility. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, the community has responded to continue to provide the funding that is necessary to keep the doors open in this place. And as you well know, it takes an army to make it happen. It takes the community. Mm-hmm. It takes the involvement of everybody involved, getting involved, especially the business community, where those that can afford it and have the means. I would love to see every business in this community participate in some form or another. Get their employees involved. For instance, even the university, the football team, the basketball team. Mm-hmm. We have the players volunteering. Yep. The wives of the coaches volunteering. Yep. So there's a lot that can be done to make this place. I don't know if we can make it any better, but
we can always be better. So and that's been, with the help of your awareness and, and the whole community, like you said, has just wrapped their arms around us so that we can continue to do the good work. And so thank you, Bert. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the vision. Thank you for being a man who is generous and cares about people.
Thank you, and I look forward to continue doing my work and helping till the last day of my life.
So I'm going to ask you one last question, and that is, if you could do one thing to immediately impact the state of homelessness, what would that be?
If I could do that, is have the government, instead of spending all that money the way they do it, millions and billions of dollars, and not solving the problem, build the facilities without any intervention from the government and lease them out to gospel rescue missions throughout the country where they could run them without any intervention. Just pay the dollar fee to the government, build the facilities. Don't spend any more money in trying to solve the homeless problem. Let Gospel Rescue Mission take care of that problem. And I think it would succeed and be a heck of a lot cheaper than the money we spend nowadays.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bert. Thank you for having a conversation with me on the bench. Thank you for everything that you've done for this great city. So we appreciate you, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, Tucson. Welcome to Conversation on a Bench. We are back live right here. I don't know what hour we're in, but it's like I'm thinking, what, hour 20? We're just rocking and rolling here. And we've had so many conversations on this bench. We've talked about everything from working with the city to business stakeholders to former guests who've been staying here and all kinds of different organizations talking about how we can come together. So I want to introduce to you a friend of mine, Ian Carter, with Holistic Sales Training. Good morning, Ian. How you doing?
I'm doing well.
Go ahead.
I think I'm doing a little better than you right now.
Probably. I wouldn't deny that.
There you go.
So tell us about Ian.
So I've been here about 4 years now, a little over 4 years. Obviously, you and I met about 3 years ago.
Yeah,
here.
You beat me here by about a year. You're one of the first people that I got to know when I got here at a chamber event, and the relationship, friendship just kind of grew from that.
Absolutely. So I moved here from Austin back in 21 just to be closer to family. My mom recently, I think it was last year, she retired from Banner. Yeah. And so we have my mom's side of the family over here, but brought the kids and everything. Originally from Kansas City, spent most of my life there, and people are temporarily forgive me for being a Chiefs fan because of the fact that I was there during the hard times.
Kansas City Chiefs, Kansas City
Royals.
Yeah, I think I've heard of them.
Yeah. But no,
I'm from Indianapolis, so
there you go.
Colts fan.
There you go. So, but I've been in sales and leadership for literally about 30 years, recently between the two. And started holistic sales training about 3 years ago, specifically because I saw a hole or a need, and it's called holistic for a reason. We're talking about the whole person. So things like mindset, mindfulness, taking care of yourself. Yeah. Things like movement, hydration, nutrition, and then also frameworks for scaling a business or even a nonprofit. Yeah. So that's kind of the story. But if you're not addressing the whole human, and you all can appreciate that with the wraparound services here.
Absolutely, 100%.
If you're not addressing the whole human, you're not going to solve the problem. It's a temporary fix.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. So tell me how that, how that's going real quick, and we're going to get into some other things with what we're dealing with here in our community. But tell me how's that going, and how's that evolving? The holistic sales training.
It's actually interesting because whenever I first started it, I was like, I'm going to write a book and then I'm going to go and do some other things, right? And then somebody had asked me actually to potentially deliver some courses at their property, but they were essentially what ended up happening is they wanted the intellectual property rights to anything I delivered and afterwards, and I'm like, that's just not happening. So I was already building out a course that I've actually created for several other specific businesses when I've launched products and things like that. But essentially it started off as it's Sales Foundations, the Art and Science of Prospecting. And I've had 4 different cohorts through that specific course. But then most recently I built a course called Fundraising Foundations, the Art and Science of Donor Development, because a lot of the things that salespeople have to do on a daily basis are similar to what development professionals have to do, with a huge difference in the middle of it. Obviously, we're not selling a product or service.
Sure.
We're still trying to get people to buy into a cause. Yeah. So I flipped the entire course on its head, and right now I have 8 people enrolled to start in that course, which starts next week, the 15th, and it's going to be happening at the Oro Valley Chamber. So
awesome.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm still looking for a few scholarship recipients for that, because I'd like to help, because this is all a nonprofit helping local nonprofit leaders here in town and development professionals to bring in more for their cause.
Awesome, Ian. That's awesome. I'd like to talk to you more about that later. So, you've brought your whole family here.
Mm-hmm.
You brought your wife and the kids here. You've done the tour.
Yep.
You've seen the whole operation. You tell everybody about
I do.
Gospel Rescue Mission. You're always storing up clothes.
I forgot my stuff today to bring.
Just bring the good ones. Bring the
right?
best.
Exactly.
Bring the best.
Yep.
So we really appreciate that. So, we've been talking about a lot of things on the bench over the last 20 hours, and we've covered a plethora of conversation, but I can hear a resounding theme about collaborative work.
Yep.
And that's something, when we talk about sales and sales training, there's a lot of collaborative work that
100%.
goes into that.
Yep.
So, you've been here 4 years. You've been here a year longer than I have here in Tucson. It seems like we woke up one day and we woke up to this massive issue, this conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what changed? I mean,
it's interesting because I've seen it myself progress over the course. Because me, as similar to you, I'm all over the city all the time, depending on what I'm doing, and so I get to see the good spots, the bad spots, and the increase in the amount of individuals that I've seen over the course of time, and the prevailing underlying concerns of things like drug use and things of that nature. It's troubling, so there's so many different levels that it impacts in our society, and it's not just it is the individuals, right? But it's also the reverberating effects that impact businesses, families, things like that. It's been tough to watch. I mean, I think it's been like you and I were talking a little bit beforehand, but I'd seen the same stat. It's been about a 300% increase in just the last few years.
Actually, we were just talking about that.
And 42% of that is contributed to, or 43% are folks that have problems with addiction. Yeah. And it's my biggest concern or question, having seen this, having cried together when we've walked through this and talked to the people that are a part of the program is. Yeah. Over the years, you and I've had this conversation, is why isn't there more collaboration between local government and a facility like this that houses 50 plus different nonprofits that are collaborating and isn't taking funding, right? Because that's one of the biggest things that we all had questions about recently during a shutdown is like, what's gonna, what suffers, right? And what goes well during those time frames. And, with you all being not taking government funding is why are we not seeing more collaboration with local government and programs like you guys?
I think collaboration is definitely has been an issue. Now, we're a collaborative campus.
100%.
As you know.
Yep.
We have over 53 plus collaborative partnerships here on this campus, right? Yep. So, and that's critical for us.
It is.
Right?
We all have our specialties.
Right.
We all have our lanes.
We do what we do. So, with that being said, but and I think too with the city, there's issues there, because they're dependent on funds,
of course,
to be able to make things happen.
Yeah, of course.
So, I'm going to ask you one more question before we wrap up.
Yep.
And you can think about this when I give it to you. So, if you could do one thing to make an immediate impact on the state of homelessness and the drug addiction that we're facing right now, what would that be?
Honestly, what I think I would do is try to figure out how to get as many of us in a room as possible to have the conversation. But having a conversation look, we're both have been in business. We've been in, in these types of situations as well. But have the hard conversation, and not the one that is restricted because we all want to have a comfortable conversation.
Right.
someone needs to be able to ask the hard questions, and as opposed to people, giving the answers that they think people want or things
Sure.
like that. It's like, let's take the veil off and let's look at what we're really facing and ask the tough questions and ask, what are we going to do? We have there's so many nonprofits here in this town that are amazing, and we have this giant campus full of opportunity for this collaboration. Is why aren't we if we have these different resources and we have this different ability to each of us stay in our own lane, right, and be able to provide the things that we're best at, why aren't we getting in a room and having this conversation together and asking the tough questions?
I agree 100%. No doubt about that.
I think that if I could change one thing, I'd say get everybody in a room, put party and politics aside, and let's have a conversation about what's actually happening.
Absolutely. My brother, Ian, I appreciate you, man.
100%.
Hey, stay with us. We're going to take a short break. My friend Ian Carter here with Holistic Sales Training. Thank you, brother, for taking some time
100%.
to come down here and sit on this bench. We will be right back shortly with another guest on the bench having a conversation. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Conversations on a Bench. I'm Lisa Chastain, happy to be here again with the Tucson Crime-Free Coalition. Kevin Daly, Monica Carlson, welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. We're glad to be here.
This is part 2.
This is part 2.
So we're going to act as if this is your first one. So we're going to talk a little bit about the mission of Tucson Crime-Free Coalition and the safety that you guys are passionate about for our city. So tell us how it came to be and what really the mission and the goal is for your organization.
Well, I'll start with the mission and the goal. The mission is advocacy and education. We were brought together by a series of conditions, and you're going to see some pictures today of what actually brought us together. Fundamentally, I have this really big, dangerous wash where maybe about a fifth of Tucson's water dumps into that and then ends up in the Santa Cruz. And when I contacted the city and our elected leaders, they didn't seem to have anything but kind of curiosity about and apathy about taking any action about the people that were living down there and stealing from the neighborhood, bathing in people's front yards, defecating in their driveways, stealing from their garages. Basically, it was kind of like, well, it's a big problem. There's nothing we can really do about it. But as a neighborhood leader, a president of the Fᴏʟʟᴏ, founder of the Fᴏʟʟᴏ Neighborhood Association and Community Coalition, president of the Fᴏʟʟᴏ School Board for 25 years, and I'm an engineer by trade. But when you have neighbors coming to you asking you, how do I deal with this problem, and all this neighborhood experience and going to your leaders and getting that kind of reaction, it caused us to have to take a different tact. And so we were brought together by Jan Lesher and other people, the county administrator, and TPD introduced me to Monica Carlson, who was having a terrible time as a business. We learned that getting together with businesses was one way to get some action. And Monica, why don't you tell them about, as a business owner, everything you've experienced.
So yeah, we have a business right in Tucson, and over the past 3 years, I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of businesses in Tucson that are experiencing the same things. Open drug use, 24 hours a day at our business, theft, the people that we're experiencing have no shame. They, can come in. We had somebody come in pretty much naked to our shop one day. We've heard the same stories over and over again. Nothing is shocking to me anymore. And that, I think, is the sad thing about all of this, that it's becoming very normal in Tucson to see people every single day smoking fentanyl, shooting up at the bus stops, on the side of businesses. And it's becoming normal. And it's becoming normal for our kids to see it. And I think that's my biggest mission with Tucson Crime Free, because I don't want this to be normal anymore. I want people to be shocked when they see what's happening, and they're not. And it's sad for us. It's sad for the people that are going through the drug abuse, that they're not getting the proper help that they need. We have people in our city that keep telling us the same story, that these people should be able to live the way they want to live. But that's costing us a lot of money and a lot of heartache to see them live this way.
And they're dying.
They're dying, and it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think that I too talk to a lot of businesses because they call us and they say, how can you help us, rid this problem from our private property? The city and the county talks a lot about public space, right? But it's not just happening on public space. It's happening on private property, on commercial businesses, the vandalism, you spoke of all the things. So what that does, and this is the sad part, is it hardens the hearts of people from having a compassionate response. So now we're just mad and angry and don't like them. Right. And so we need to not only do something about it like we do here, but also there has to be enforcement of laws,
consequences.
So this is what you guys advocate for as well. And so thank you for your work. I think that you are the mouth and the presence for a lot of collective voices through your coalition. I've seen it grow and grow and grow and grow. That's why we can no longer ignore it, right? So I think once we get control and it's not so prevalent everywhere and our city is back to a healthy state, that people will go back to being compassionate for people. So I appreciate your work and appreciate all that you're doing. Right now we're going to focus on, just recently on your social media has just been a flood of these videos, really raw and disturbing videos of the encampments itself, much more so than I have ever seen anybody cover it. So tell us how that came about, and also how are you maintaining your safety when you're down there and you're doing that?
You go through a process of, you start out worrying about that you're really, the truth is it's unsafe,
right,
to go in the camp. It's because these camps are usually run by drug dealers, okay, and we have been confronted. The secret out there is that the only people that win by our inaction are the drug dealers, and they're out there and they're running the camps, and the city knows it.
We have went through these encampments, but we usually are going through them with a police officer.
Sometimes.
Okay. Sometimes.
Not always. But I don't recommend people go and do this. You should have some protection, or you should you should be protected by a police officer or something. But
absolutely.
You should. It's dangerous.
Yeah, but it's very candid, and it's given us a different perspective, because we see the outskirts of encampments, but you guys are going in the heart, in the middle of that. You have, since the very beginning your coalition started, you've been exposing what's really going on. So I think that's what kind of got you started as well, is just exploring just how devastating those encampments are.
Yeah, it's a humanitarian crisis. It really is. The conditions that people are living in down there, and the hunger that's happening. I mean, Josh described a situation. I'm not sure I want to talk about it, but we don't advocate for giving handouts to people because, for example, if you people say, well, I should be able to give money however I want to. Yeah, you can. You can hand $5 to that person
Right.
panhandling on the street corner, but know that person is probably going to go buy 10 fentanyl pills with that $5,
Right.
and any one of those pills could be the end of that person's life. So how do you feel about that? And then a recent situation that Josh described, and I'm telling you, Josh has seen a lot, but he went to 100 Acre, and they were, and he had some people with him to help guide, but he saw the hunger in some of these people. He just felt so awful how some of these people looked,
Yeah.
how emaciated they looked. And so he went back and he got some food, and he brought it back, and he said it was unbelievable that, I mean, the food showed up, and then people just started. It was kind of like Night of the Living Dead. I mean, if you can imagine, these people just kind of, they come from all different directions, and it was the wrong thing to do, because, again, you're just enabling. You're enabling people. I mean, what you're doing is you're dragging out that time when they're going to hit rock bottom by
Right.
just continuing, and that's what the city of Tucson is doing.
Yeah, and that's what we kind of have a similar voice in that. When people say, "Oh, should I give people money in the medians to those that are panhandling?" and we say, "No, please don't." That's what developed our invitation cards, right? Give them this card if you want to give them a bottle of water and granola bar in a package, but really give them the resources where they can get the help that they really need. So I saw a campaign, it was actually in Canada, and that couldn't have been more truer. They took out billboards and had signs everywhere and had the image of no face, just a guy with a needle in his arm, and it said, "Your generosity is killing me." Meaning that every dollar we give goes straight into the drug addiction that they have. It enables them to get another hit or two, and we know that that's not the answer.
And there's something
know?
called, and Lisa, there's something called a hot pill. You ever heard of the hot pill?
I've heard it talked about, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure what that is.
The hot pill is, there's no regulation in the drug labs, right? When they're
Yeah.
making this stuff.
Right.
So when they're mixing this stuff, you may get one pill that's very weak, right? And that's
Yeah.
just, and that's why a lot of times they have to, so we've heard that people use maybe 60 pills a day,
Right.
When they're
Yep.
smoking those pills. But occasionally you get one that's really strong.
Has an extra.
It's got an
dose.
extra kick to it. And in talking to addicts, they'll say, you know what, when they can sense that right away, and they'll kind of set that one aside for when they're, when they get a load that's not real strong, they'll set it aside. But to the person that's not skilled, that could be the end of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we see it, unfortunately, more often than not here. We know that one bad hit, one hot pill, could take their life. It's no shot of Narcan is going to save them at that point. It's something that we're experiencing that, every single day they're coming out with a stronger and stronger, more toxic, because now the fentanyl pills is not enough, right? Because it's always that seek for the next high, and they become immune, and they need to have something a little bit stronger, and it ravages people's lives. We know that, and here they're offered, a chance to put that aside, walk away from that. We know that's not easy, and that's why our addiction recovery program is a year-long program, because it takes that long. It takes that long in order. The 30, 60, 90-day programs do not work for people because it's not enough time for somebody to even have a clear thought. So I'm really proud of our program and the life transformation that it allows people to experience. So there is hope. But it's rolling the dice, man. You're rolling the dice every single time you take that hit because you don't know if it's what it's going to be.
That's right.
And so that we have to stop. I say, do we have a homeless problem or do we have an addiction problem?
Exactly.
So people like to say, oh, we have a homeless problem, da-da-da-da-da. And of course, we're comfortable in using that, that verbiage. But what we really have is we have an addiction and a mental health crisis. And if people don't get the treatment that they need, we're going to see that cycle. They're going to choose to live on the streets because they've burned all the bridges, family, friends, everybody in their life. And now this is their new community. So we understand it the same. We know what the solution is, and that is to provide the treatment that people really need so they can be successful. Holistically, we do everything here in partnership, as you guys know. And it's a systemic problem. It's not just about, the leadership of Tucson. It's the leadership, it's the law enforcement, it's the policymakers.
Yes.
It's the homeless service providers. Yes. It's all of us working together to make a difference.
All of us working together. And the advocates.
Right,
and the advocates
for sure.
And the educators to try to bring, on that note, one of the things that we've been involved in is legislation.
Right.
At the state level. Arizona is only one of 15 states that doesn't have the ability to hold people for substance only. And so what we did was we worked with Pima County, the Crisis Response Center, psychiatrists, and legal counsel, and we drafted legislation. And we've gotten it through almost to the end twice now, but we have the best bill we've ever had where we are not adding something new other than we're expanding Title 36 to have a Section C, which allows us to have people. We're not picking up new people. We're addressing people that have already been picked up for something that is really bad, and they're in this terrible crisis. They're already at the Crisis Response Center. They're not being picked up separately. They're already there, but we want to allow 5 calendar days to allow them to stabilize and possibly make a decision about their future. And that's what we're sponsoring as another solution.
There needs so much reform, so how do we do that? One bill at a time.
One bill at a time.
And so I appreciate you doing that. It's not drafting a whole new thing, but adding, a section to it, which is so important. So I hope that you get some wind beneath your sails with that, and because every little bit is gonna help make a difference. So what is on the horizon for you guys? I know you're still in advocating mode, that you're still advocating for those businesses, advocating for policy reform, whatnot. So where do you see this going?
We see this as continuing to. We literally. Let's show you some of the things that we're advocating. So you can see here, there's pictures here, and I'll just describe them. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the word out. We need people to know what's happening under our streets,
right? And
under the underbelly of Tucson, and these pictures indicate they're pictures of utter desperation.
Yeah.
You've got feces. You've got bodily fluids. You've got needles. You've got You've got clothing strewn about. You usually will always see stolen items. Usually bicycles. Bicycles is one of the biggest thing. Usually copper wire. The copper wire that's supposed to be in our streetlights. It's in our washes being stripped. One of the most depressing sights was, I mean, they literally, Josh just about within 2 weeks ago, they were visiting encampments, and they were under the tunnels, and sure enough they had not spools, but copper wire that had been ripped out of streetlights, and you got guys stripping, women and men stripping the wire, because you get more money if you strip the wire, the insulation off of it, but it's almost like a manufacturing operation down there. And
all of these pictures that are in this poster are pictures that we've taken in encampments.
There are pictures.
So these are living conditions of what people are experiencing on the street. And they're not exaggerated. They're just pictures that we take as we're going through. People don't care if we take them. They think they're living in a fine environment. And so I think the biggest take on this is, would you rather have them living in an encampment, or would you rather have them come to Gospel Rescue Mission? You know, I've said it before, and I try and get people. I'm bringing my mother-in-law down here next week so she can walk through and see it. These conditions are horrific when you're walking. The smell.
Inhumane.
And the smell.
You're walking through, we went through one at a city park. Some of these are city parks that the city is allowing to happen.
Yes.
And
you can see the ramadas in some of the pictures.
It's sanctioned.
Yeah. And on our Facebook page, we do have a video. It's the very first video you'll see that we're walking through. And there's a stream of blue water going through the whole encampment. And it's
and we don't know who did it, but somebody had the foresight. Dare I say, the city might have done it, but they, which is another indication that they're sanctioning this kind of thing. They took the blue sanitizing things from, like, for your IV, the tablets, and putting them in the piles of sewage in the encampments.
And that's running through the middle
of the encampment
of their encampments, and the smell of fentanyl.
Yeah.
Watching them shoot up as police officers are walking through. They have
they have generators. They have generators.
Right.
They make little, all the stolen, building materials. I mean, it's all. Some of them have pretty, they've been there so long that they've created structures, and that's an attribute to the city sanctioning this kind of behavior.
And let me just add, this is not for exploitation. This is for awareness.
This is education.
This is education
you need to
and
know
awareness.
What's happening.
So many people say, on your comments, you're exploiting people.
Absolutely not.
And
we're like the news. We're just saying, look,
right, this is actually what's
happening.
People
are dying
because it's inhumane.
It's inhumane.
And here's the sad thing, and I always say this, is whatever choice our leadership, our government leadership is making for Tucson, this is somewhat their response, and they guise it as compassion.
Yeah, and it's not compassion.
And so do these pictures, the videos, the panhandlers we see on the streets, is that compassion?
No.
That's not our response. That's not our compassionate response. Our compassionate response is let's get them the help they really need and they really deserve.
Right.
And so that they can have a chance, so they don't have to live in squalor, so they don't have to live in inhumane, feel like like animals in the Mad Max society, and so that people can really, like I said, get the help that they deserve and they need so desperately.
Yeah, because Lisa, look, as a society, this is our responsibility.
Right.
Right? I mean, we choose to live together, and we have certain norms that we've all agreed that are humane and ways that we can live together. And so it's our responsibility to take care of people that are in crisis. That's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do.
It should be how we're made, right? How we're created is to
and
neighbor
somehow,
helping neighbor.
Neighbor helping neighbor. And somehow like Monica brought up, I said, how did we get to the
How
point?
did we get so far?
How did we get to the point where we say it's okay to see
Yeah.
somebody pass out on the sidewalk and just drive by?
Right.
I can't imagine that. Even 10 years ago or even before COVID. No, absolutely before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
If I drove by and I saw somebody collapse on the sidewalk, I would hit the brakes and I
Sure.
would get out there and
Yep.
call 911 but now people just drive by.
Mm-hmm.
How did we get this way?
Yeah. So let's not continue to have people's hearts hardened. Let's do something about it. The thing I love about the coalition is, you maybe say some unpopular things for some people, but you're willing to work together, just like we are. Everybody has their own perspective and their own philosophies and opinions about things, but let's work together.
Yes.
Let's not allow this to be in the streets of Tucson any longer.
How do we explain
So-
this to our children?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How do you Monica? What?
Yeah. And Monica, I've seen her so many times where she has, not only as a business owner, but her heart bleeds as a mother.
Well, she's the heart.
Absolutely. Thank God you guys have her.
I brought this up yesterday at our discussing that Monica, we have other names for our Oliver and me and Josh, but Monica is the heart of Tucson Crime Free.
Yeah, I would agree with you about that. But you're all doing a great job and bringing awareness. Thank you for giving us, a insider look that, nobody else really is going to cover that. And that is true, and that is what's going on. So let's together make a difference.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
I was thinking last night, when we were here yesterday, you asked the question about what's the one thing that you could do to change, what's happening on our streets. And I thought about that last night. And I think it's education in the schools, not after the fact. Like right now, one pill can kill, now the education comes out. This should have started years ago in our schools. Mm-hmm. Our kids are, we have one in college, one at high school. They've never been talked to about what's going on the streets. And, I've scared the bejesus, I hope, out of my kids by showing them this. And I don't talk about it anymore with them because I think they're tired of listening to it. But, it's not the same drugs that we grew up with. It's not the same marijuana when you're at a party.
No.
It starts and it progresses. And I've asked my kids, to come down here and maybe talk to some people that have been through it. Mm-hmm. But, if you could get people to go into high schools, if they would allow it, and tell them, this is where I was living. And because it started with one drug, led to another, gateway drugs led to another one.
Yeah.
And then I decided to try fentanyl or meth. And then that was it. And my whole life turned upside down crazy from one little blue pill. That's all it took.
When I'm dating myself, but when I went through school, we had those programs. We had, I lived in the era of Scared Straight and and Just Say No and all those campaigns that were really giving the education, to kids about the dangers, of drugs and addiction and crime and incarceration. So I agree with you, Monica. We need to get back to that era of education for our kids and let them know the dangers of unfortunately what these people have experienced.
Yeah, because my kids, when they drive downtown Tucson, think nothing of it. To see somebody passed out on the sidewalk, it doesn't even make them look twice. They just drive past. And my kids are, they have a heart, but they think nothing of it anymore. And so Tucson has made this normal from the leadership down.
Well, together, let's make a difference. Yes. And I know you guys advocate just like we do for people's second chances to get them off the street and to get them the help that they need and they deserve. So thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Conversations on a Bench. And thank you again for the partnership and bringing awareness and bringing people here because we know that help starts here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lisa.
Well, welcome back to Conversations on a Bench. I'm so happy to have with me Rob Tomlinson. I'm Lisa Chastain. Rob, wow, where do I start? First of all, I'll give his credentials. Rob is a partner at Picor Commercial Real Estate. But much more important than that, Rob, you're a GRM board member.
That's true.
So
That's
let's
true.
talk a little bit. Oh, and a native Canadian. We won't hold that against you. But let's talk a little bit about you and how you found the commercial real estate world.
Oh, how I found the commercial real estate world was through a single class I had in college. It was on urban geography, how cities are put together. By the end of that class, I knew what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I wanted to be a part of that machine that helps to build and improve cities.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we're talking here, of course, about homelessness and the challenges, the solutions from different people's perspective. Long before you were a board member, Rob, you had invited me to come speak to a seminar that you were putting on, a group of commercial real estate brokers, owners, etc., that were concerned. They were concerned about the investment that they're having to put into their properties and how we're going to bring solutions to the homelessness crisis. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So we're facing a massive crisis in the commercial real estate world with the costs of vandalism, and vandalism being caused by the homeless population, largely by the homeless population. Massive amounts of theft of copper, HVAC components, anything that's not nailed down, frankly, and even stuff that is. We have buildings that are stripped of their entire wiring harness for maybe $100 worth of copper that costs thousands of dollars to replace. And these costs are absolutely massive. It's a big challenge for all of us.
So I know you hear the complaints and the negative side of things.
Yeah.
Of course, I think that compelled you to be a board member at Gospel Rescue Mission to just say, hey, what are the solutions out there? How can we be a part? So what was it, your heart and your heart of compassion that really said yes in your mind to being on the board of Gospel Rescue Mission?
Yeah, absolutely. It was compassion for my fellow man, for seeing the plight of these people who, but for the grace of God go I. And so, yeah, absolutely. There was a very strong element of having a heart to help other people. And also a realization that if not me, who, and if not now, when. Many of my colleagues in the commercial real estate world are in that camp of people who complain and wring their hands and they rage against the situation.
Right.
But they're not helping necessarily, or not helping to the degree they could be. And I didn't want to be a part of that population. I wanted to be a part of the solution. And so that's why I came to Gospel Rescue Mission.
What have you learned since what is going on, a little over 2 years maybe that you've been on the board?
Yeah, it's just been a very steep learning curve for me. Understanding, I think, or developing a better understanding of the causation, what's causing this crisis, especially in our city. And it's not a simple one solution thing. You know, our classic view of a homeless person is someone who's experiencing housing instability because of something that they've done wrong. And they wind up in a tough situation on the streets, potentially drug addicted or other issues going on with them. But most of the time, or much of the time, people don't start out that way.
Right.
They simply are unhoused for reasons outside of their control, and the rest of it happens after they're on the streets, where they are the victims of predation and taken advantage of by other people on the street, quite frankly. And to see that rope actually pulls both ways.
Right.
You know, that it's not so much that you have the housing instability due to the chemical issues, but also you just have a housing instability and the chemical issues tend to follow and it tends to perpetuate a very negative cycle. And I didn't understand the nuances of that until after I was well involved in Gospel Rescue Mission.
Yeah, and there is, we know there's so many people that end up on the streets for various reasons.
Yes.
It's not a one-size-fits-all, formula on how we're going to fix this problem. It's very complex. That's why we have so many services at the Center of Opportunity to address all of those issues. The thing I like about, our program is that, everybody is individually case managed because, like I said, there's not a formula that can fix people. And everybody comes here with different issues, different causes of what led them to homelessness. So we try to address those issues on a human being side of things, just like you were talking about, and make a plan that's custom made for them, that they can have success with. So I love that about what we do, and I would think because of your experience with us and learning a little bit more, in depth about the kinds of people that we serve, how has that changed with your conversations to your peers and conversations for those that are navigating these challenges as property owners?
I would have to say that it's changed the way that I talk to my colleagues and my clients, because I help them to understand that if we're being truly compassionate, then we're being careful in the actions that we do to not promote an opportunity for these theft and vandalism issues to occur, and to understand that not everybody who's homeless is a criminal, not everybody who's homeless is a vandal, and it's really changed the tenor of the mood in the room, frankly, when it comes up, because typically with somebody who's lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's not an exaggeration.
No, yeah.
Okay, in various properties that they own or that they manage, there's an anger there. There's an unwillingness to understand it and arrive at a human solution to a very human problem. And it's changed the way that I speak with them, and I think it's changed the way that they feel about the crisis that we're in right now.
Do you feel anything changing?
Yes. I do feel things changing in the private sector. There is a much higher level of sophistication than there was even 2 or 3 years ago, as we experiment with different ways to safeguard the properties that we deal with in a way that's effective yet humane, I guess. There's been a number of very bad ideas on how to combat homelessness or combat the damage that can be had but for vandalism and theft that stems from homelessness. And I see that those harsh solutions are not being embraced when other gentler tactics are working. Better lighting, clearer sight lines, making sure that decorative shrubbery, things like that, are trimmed back so it doesn't provide refuge. Just soft things like that don't involve the potential for someone to be hurt. I'm seeing that those strategies are working better.
So we've talked earlier to the Chamber of Southern Arizona, as well as some members from the city, working together to try to combat the issues. There is more action taking place as far as in light of the incident on the Loop and some other incidences that have really just kind of propelled the conversation that we have to do something. So there does seem like there is more of an urgency, maybe that there hasn't been in the last 4 or 5 years. So I'm wondering if that same, that same feeling I feel is what your peers and your clients might be feeling.
Absolutely. It's gotten to a point now, and you mentioned the murder that happened recently. Right. There are many more than that,
right,
that have happened, unfortunately.
And you're a cyclist, so you can speak to that.
Yeah. My wife won't cycle alone. She'll go with me.
Yeah.
Because it's a very different experience for her when I'm with her than when she's by herself. And it's what I'm seeing is a much higher level of enforcement, of course, out there, like as a private citizen, just out running or bicycling. There's obviously a much more heightened presence of law enforcement out there, but I'm also starting to feel as if our elected officials and the institutions are coming to the realization
we got to do something. And
the folks that own the commercial properties, that manage the commercial properties, are now exerting pressure on those elected officials that, okay, this is well past the point that something should have been done, and this needs to happen.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's the cry of the community, really, is that we can't allow lawlessness. We can't allow the trespassing on private property. I've said early also that some of the narrative and the campaign officials, people running for elected officials, have used the terminology of we have to make it uncomfortable for people to not want to live on the streets, make it uncomfortable for them to live on the streets. And I know that is because I've talked to enough of your circle, to know that that's very much the same kind of sentiments. I agree with that. I think we can have a compassionate response to that. And what we do at the Center of Opportunity, I think, is the compassionate response to that. Obviously, if somebody is in the throes of drug addiction, if they are struggling with mental illness, and they're not incentivized, let's say, to get help, they're not going to get help. So I think it's a collective, it is, I always say it's a systemic problem because it's going to take leadership, law enforcement, policymakers, nonprofit providers, and other compassionate human beings to really address the problem. But I feel like there is movement in the right direction.
I agree with you. I was in a meeting with one of the council members not so long ago, and I made the point to them, and we talked just a moment ago how individually there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to this problem. That also applies on a larger scale, city to city. There's not a one-size-fits-all. Every urban center is going to have a little different or sometimes drastically different experience with the homeless issue. And the point I tried to make with the council member I was talking to was that Tucson does have a unique situation. So we are 45 minutes to an hour from the border. According to the Tucson Police Department, 54% of the legal fentanyl in the United States comes through Arizona. If it's coming through Arizona, it's almost certainly coming through Tucson.
Yeah.
We have an unfortunate situation here where we have a flood of fentanyl on our streets here in Tucson. And so a solution that works in Tacoma or Shreveport or Albany isn't going to work here. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's just too soft. It's just too unrealistic for us. Fentanyl is an amazingly difficult and dangerous drug. I was talking to a recovering alcoholic one time, and he explained to me, he said, Rob, hitting bottom is a process by which you can no longer lower your standards to accommodate the degrading situation around you. Fentanyl, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
You can degrade until you actually, unfortunately, pass away on the streets because it's that addictive, it's that strong, and it's that dangerous.
And accessible and cheap.
Very accessible and cheap.
Very, very inexpensive. We know that there's drug dealers in and out of encampments. It's been recorded. So it's one of Tucson's unique challenges, like you said, is that we're a pass-through, right, of all the drugs. So we all know somebody that's been impacted by addiction. And, there's not a week that goes by that I don't talk to a family saying, what can we do? And you're going to hear a little bit later from some of those families that didn't know what to do with their child that had been addicted and ravaged their lives and for years and years and years. And, it's no longer 7 degrees of separation, it's 1 degree, I think, for most of us.
Yeah.
And so that in itself tells, the escalation of the problem that we have here in Tucson.
Absolutely. In terms of making things uncomfortable, there's one level of discomfort for somebody who's got an alcohol or a cocaine problem or marijuana, whatever it is. That's one level of discomfort. There must be a much higher level of discomfort to get someone to recognize when they're on fentanyl that they can't stay like this. And we need to put that to work for us on the private side as citizens, as commercial property owners and managers, as elected officials. There are a number of different ways to make things more uncomfortable for people to live a life of drug abuse on the streets.
So what is the Commercial Real Estate Association that, helps them advocate for things like that? Do they lean on the chamber? Who do they lean on to really advocate for them?
We had or have a group that they call the Homeless Task Force.
Okay.
It's a group that originated with a local CCIM. It's a local chapter of commercial real estate practitioners. And we try to come together as a voice to express our issues. Unfortunately, we're just one amongst many,
Yeah.
We do our best. Fortunately, many of our property owners are in a position to support folks running for office pretty substantially, and they're more likely to support somebody who has a plan or a willpower, the political willpower to do the things it takes to make our community less welcome to people who want to live a life of homelessness and drug addiction.
Yeah, so, well, thanks for caring, and it really comes down to that, is that I know you're a man who cares, and you do everything with an element of compassion.
Yes.
In everything that you do, so I appreciate that. And on a personal note, you're a man with extraordinary taste because you live in a Chastain builder's home.
Yes, I do.
So,
proudly. I live in a
change the
Chastain home.
temperature of the conversation a little. So yeah, I was glad to find out that. And Rob, I'll put words in your mouth, but you're like, it's the best home we ever had.
It absolutely
so it's a little
is.
plug for my dad's handiwork. So thanks for being here with me, Rob, and
Certainly.
Thanks for just all your support and your lending your wisdom and your knowledge and your time to the efforts of the Gospel Rescue Mission Board of Directors. So appreciate it. One last question for you before we go.
Absolutely.
If you could do one thing to affect immediate change of the homeless crisis, what would it be?
We've kind of skirted the subject a little bit throughout our conversation today, and I'm going to land on it a little bit more hard. Is we really need to make our community inhospitable for a drug-addicted lifestyle. And it sounds like I'm not compassionate when I say that. The only way I can say that as a caring person is that I know that the lights are on, the door's unlocked. There are services at Gospel Rescue Mission. There are other services around town. Mm-hmm. The availability is undeniable. We have the capacity to help. We want to help. We just need them to be motivated to walk through that door into a better life.
Yes. Well, we'll end on that note. Thank you, Rob. Thank you for everything that you do at PICOR and for the community. And it's a pleasure to know you and get to know you more on a daily basis. So I appreciate you having a conversation on the bench with us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yeah.
Hi, Bruce Spikeman, Communications Director here at Gospel Rescue Mission. We are back on the bench, and I have sitting with me here today John Hudick, who is the founder of Tucson Lifestyles. John, welcome today.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Good
being
to be
here.
here. Sure.
Appreciate that. John, real quick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your time here in Tucson and how we got here?
Well, I moved to Tucson from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Grew up in a working class family. I wasn't really a great student, and after I graduated high school in 1975, I didn't have prospects for college, but I had an uncle who'd moved from Pittsburgh to Tucson for his arthritis, and he had a spare bedroom. So I came out here, and once I'd lived here for a year, I was legally a resident, and tuition at the university at the time was just about $500 a semester, so I could afford to put myself through college.
Those days are long gone.
They are. But I got active kind of in a nonprofit community early in life. At like 1982, I helped form my first nonprofit and started serving on a nonprofit board and been active in the nonprofit community ever since.
Awesome. So, John, tell our listeners how you got involved. How did Tucson Lifestyle start?
Well, it started in 1982, so I'm the publisher and I've only been with the magazine since 2019. I had a 30-year career with another publishing company called Madden Media, but Jim Conley started it in 1982 as a lifestyle magazine, and it did for the longest time focus on foothills living and gardening and bathroom remodels and all that kind of stuff. When I came on board in 2019, the widow of Jim Conley, he had passed, Rhonda Smith, wanted to try and take the magazine into a little different direction because from 1982 to 2019, Tucson has changed a lot. And so a formula for a city magazine had changed and how to be successful. Our local newspapers aren't what they used to be. In fact, back in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, we had a morning newspaper and an afternoon newspaper. They had 6 people just covering the arts. Now there's only one paper and there's one person doing so. People care about where they live.
Sure.
And so city magazines have an opportunity to pick up some of that slack. So we did start doing stories of more substance on issues in the community like water, but we've also covered homelessness. And since we're not involved in just doing the news of the day,
Yeah.
we can step back and do a more thoughtful
Yeah.
approach to it.
So John, tell me, you've had a lot of stories, probably a little bit of everything. Give me, what's been the approach with, as far as print goes, with the homeless crisis that we're facing here in Tucson over the last few years, and the drug addiction? How has that impacted what you've done with stories and what you see how it's impacted the community from your perspective?
Well, what we learned when we did our story, and we did make it a cover story for that issue about homelessness in Tucson, we learned that there were a lot of good nonprofits cooperating together and working to address the situation. Different ones have different strengths and different focuses.
Sure.
The whole facility here at the Opportunity Center for Opportunity is amazing because it is kind of a one-stop shop, and that is what the homeless need.
Yeah, it is. It's a collaborative campus here, and we're very grateful to be able to have a one-stop shop where we have 53 collaborative partnerships here at Gospel Rescue Mission. But I just want you to know we appreciate, Tucson Lifestyle, and we'll have to get together and do a story here soon, right? And to kind of fill you in on all the things that are going on here. But before I let you go, I want to ask you a question. If you could do one thing to make an immediate impact on the state of homelessness here, what would it be?
Well, I'd probably write a check to Gospel Rescue Mission.
Wait a minute, could you say that a little bit louder? We didn't rehearse
No,
this.
seriously, what can I do other than support professionals doing it? So, you guys have a great model, and
Thank
supporting that is really in my way, the quickest way to grease the wheels and help get more done.
Thank you, John. John Hudak, the editor and publisher of Tucson Lifestyle. Thank you, John, for being here
All right.
today.
My
We
pleasure.
really appreciate it. We'll be right back with Gary Weiss and Joni Hammond. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Randy Reynolds, welcome to Conversations on the Bench.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Chastain, privileged to be sitting here with Randy. Randy is a longtime Tucsonan, converted from the California lifestyle. So thank you, U of A, for bringing him here. Man, I don't know where to start. I've known Randy for so many years, and he's been so instrumental in my life. He owns Community Renewal, Christian counseling organization. You've been involved in birthing so many Christian counseling agencies in town. You also started most recently, about 15 years ago, birthing other nonprofits. So you have a very unique opportunity to give people that have a heart to serve people an expedited way how they can become a nonprofit. So welcome, I'm glad you're here. So let's talk about Christian counseling to start it. How did you get into it? Where did you start?
Well, you're too sweet. Very, 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 very nice. So, when I was growing up, I read a book by Taylor Caldwell called The Listener. And I thought, this is my wild California days. I rolled my car and I was hitchhiking. So I found out that everybody wanted somebody to listen to them. So that was a long, long time ago, while I was probably junior college. And that got me started on the counseling thing.
Okay.
And out of that, I started to grow. And then you know the story. Lisa knows all my stories. So one of the things that happened is there was 2 Jesus Movement churches in town.
Yeah.
I started the Vineyard, which was one of the 2 Jesus Movement churches. I started with Jim Olson, and I was going to be a college coach, and you know all this stuff, but I was nationally ranked as a gymnast. Mm-hmm. I got the best high school in all of Arizona, and I went into ministry because I kept leading people to Christ, and I couldn't get rid of them. They were following me everywhere. So
that's great.
one of the guys that was a hippie was hospitalized 9 times in 1 month with LSD flashbacks, and Jim Olson goes, "You have to go and get a graduate degree." And I said, "They won't let me in." And I passed the test, but they didn't let me in. So I passed all my learning disabilities, got in, and got a master's degree in 73 is when I started. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a long time ago. And then out of that, there's a million stories. You know me and stories.
Yep.
So one of the things that happened during that time was we started the church as a Jesus Movement church. And we started a little counseling agency. You probably don't know this. We had 2 women with me, and we were doing a citywide ministry. And out of that, I began to think, well, maybe I should do more and more outreach stuff instead of, I'd stand up and preach, and I'd think, these people are turning into regular church people. Oh, no!
Not church people.
Yeah, and that was my struggle because they weren't doing gospel rescue mission stuff. They weren't doing missional things. Mm-hmm. And so we turned into a church that was getting ingrown, which I hated.
Yeah.
So I resigned in 85 and started a counseling agency, which is what you're talking about. And I ran that for 20 years. And then I started Community Renewal, which is, I'm a systems therapist, so I'm a little different than most people in that I look at small systems and big systems. We were number 1 in crime for 5 years, and because of crystal meth, so you know all this stuff and you know how it works. So out of that, when I started Community Renewal, that was what we started with. We started with dealing with the crime issue and doing that.
So you were the first one really that I heard talk about the structure of the family. and talk a little bit about that and why that's important.
Okay, well, so we did homeless at the church for 12 years. So I was beginning to learn, even though they were hippies, it was a whole different situation than it is today. The homeless during those days were hippies.
Yeah.
So they were fairly stable compared to the homeless that are mentally ill and they are addicted. We had addiction, but it's not like it
Not
is
like
today.
it is today.
No, it's a lot more difficult. So from the family point of view, what I see, and we still do that, we still do a lot of the extreme poor, the homeless and that type of thing, is that what you're looking at is that most of them don't have stable families. 99% don't have a stable family. So I think that plays a big part. You know all this stuff too, so you can jump in anytime you want.
No, I want to hear you talk about it.
So that is very difficult because when they don't have a stable family, then they don't bond. And it's much harder here. You have them living here, so they can't get away.
Yeah.
You have them tied at the ankles, I think. But that's the difficulty. A lot of the people that don't have bonding, they don't have family relationships that they're bonded to. So usually dad is not around. 90% of our people have never met their dad.
Yeah.
And then the moms, they usually are addicts and they usually went to prison, so they don't have bonding. So I have a million stories, as you know. And it's pretty sad. And then because of that, they don't have a high school education, which means that they can't get a living wage for most of them. So
Just kind of snowballs down
it snowballs,
from there.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit. Now, you started out, counseling, but you're a magnet towards people in need. You've always, since I've known you, served the community that's in need. You oftentimes, probably to the chagrin of your board, donate more of your services than you actually, take in money for, because you're that way. How did that become of a part of who you are?
Well, I think you know this since you have the business background too. So when I started with the vineyard, the issue for me was Jim paid me. I would say Jim was more the head of the vineyard. He paid me $75 a month, and I would have made $1,000 a month. So I started doing business on the side, and the business aspect grew and grew and grew. So most people don't know this, but I run businesses as well. You know this. But that was one of the things that gave me a leg up, because I started doing well in business and I could contribute. And my heart, similar to yours, is when you start working with people in need, it pulls your heartstrings. And so for me, that became a big part of my calling, was working with people with need. And you know this, we started with CCDA, Perkins.
Yeah.
And when we were working with that, what we saw was that most of the cities around the country, they struggled because you had to have counseling. So a lot of them did 10 years of family work before they started their community development work. We did 20 years of family before we started community development work. But now, as you know, we've been connected for a long, long time. That's the thing that's difficult, is most people have no idea. They'll say, well, what do I need to do micro lending, for instance?
Right.
And I'll say, well, did you have children? Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
They have to grow in their responsibility and
So you did
knowledge.
a couple of things in town that are, that I don't think you get all the recognition for. But you really brought that community Christian development idea to Tucson. You went to other cities, Fresno and other cities, and studied the model. And when many, many years ago, and we started to spend more time together, you were so active in trying to, bring that model to Tucson. And it right alongside of that is the city pastor, right? Teaching our churches and our pastors how to be city pastors, how to have a stake in our city other than their four walls. So tell me, you talked a little bit about Perkins, and that kind of got you in that track, but what was the passion there?
So one of the things in looking at the other cities, we're different than most of the cities in the East. They were, in terms of ethnicity, they were more black. Mm-hmm. So Perkins is black, as you know. And the thing that happened there is we couldn't figure it out. We were having all these city problems, and we didn't know how to motivate the city of Tucson. So, and I'm not being negative, but we're divided geographically. So you have the wealthy above river.
Yeah.
You have a big swath of kind of middle but lower middle in the middle of the city. And then you have the poor on the south side. So it's very different than a lot of cities. So you know this, and I think this is what you're asking. We just couldn't figure it out. So we had Perkins in at Northminster one time. And when we had him in, I raised my hand. You were probably there. We had 23 leaders there. And I said, I can't figure out why the white people can't do city transformation. And he goes, city pastors. And we went, what's a city pastor?
Right.
And he said, a city pastor is a person that's committed to the city but doesn't have a local congregation. So the educational part was difficult. The weakness in our city is competition, as you know, and we've talked about. A lot of times everybody wants their organization to be the best, and so they don't partner and they don't collaborate. You're the chief person of collaboration.
Well, we learned from a common friend about collaboration starts when you drop your logos and your egos at the door.
That's right.
So we both kind of lived by that mantra.
Yep. Amen. And that was the thing that we saw. And so this is back when the Walkups were mayor, and his wife sat next to me during that, and she goes, you're the city pastor. I said, no, I'm not. I'm the divorced evangelical. So, and you know this story. Pat is the one that teases me, Pat McClanahan. And when I go there, he introduces me as the pastor that's been married 3 times, twice to June, but then Lynn died of cancer, you know that. So for me, the issue was I stepped into being a city pastor, but I couldn't figure out what to title it because people are so reactive. And the guy that was the most reactive, and I won't mention any names, but that was one of the dilemmas. How do you be a city pastor? And we were trying to eliminate things like being number one in crime. But we also, I did the thing with the payday loans.
Right. Talk about that a little bit, Randy.
So
you were the person instrumental in getting rid of the payday loans.
So the thing that I didn't realize is that payday loans were at 390%.
Right.
So I was doing counseling. I had my counseling agency. I had a gal that was 51 years old, and she goes, I borrowed $500 last November, and I've paid $1,500, and I still owe $260. And I said, that's impossible.
Right.
That violates all the laws in terms of what goes on in lending. She goes, I'll show you. I'll bring it in. And I thought she was pulling my leg. And she brings it in. So I invited 25 evangelical pastors to come to my agency. One of them showed up. He showed up because his son had borrowed against a PT Cruiser, and it was a title loan. And it cost him, he borrowed $1,500, it cost him $4,500 to get the PT Cruiser back. He had gone to Vietnam. He was a pastor, but he wanted to kill everybody. So that was what got us started.
Yeah.
And then the miraculous thing, I don't know if you know this, but we voted it out in 2008. And when we voted it out, the thing that happened was the gal that was really doing most of the political was not acceptable in the religious community, but we were close. And so she worked with me a lot on that. And what they did is they set it up. They couldn't do it through the politicians, so they set it up to vote on it. Well, the payday loan people spent $13 million on advertising and doing all that type of thing. We didn't spend a nickel, and we won. So it was a God thing. It was totally a God thing, and we voted payday loans out. Now, we still have title loans.
We still have title loans,
which are up
but
to,
at least we don't have both here.
And you have them here, probably. You probably have stories, because we just had one in this week, and they're paying 204% on their
Yeah, it comes
stuff.
out of a state of desperation, right?
That's right.
People don't know what they're getting themselves
That's
into.
right.
And then all of a sudden their car's repossessed, and they owe more than what they borrowed on it.
Yeah, and 1 out of 5 that loses their car, they lose their job too. So it's the stuff that we work on workforce development. You're one of the best in the city on workforce development. But if you don't have a car, they won't hire you. So
Exactly. So we work together, again, a lot in this town in trying to bring the concept of making the local church a community center. So I think Tucson was very progressive in that as well. We were also working with, Tucson was fortunate to have a faith-based and community leader on the Pima County staff. And she did remarkable work. Linda Leatherman did remarkable
She was
work
phenomenal.
in our city and the county. But Tucson was very progressive as far as, getting faith-based initiative from the George Bush era.
right.
And making that available to churches and partnerships, which, when we started, it was like, the church and the government do not mesh. But we can certainly, we live in these, in these cities together, so we do need to work together. So we worked hard on trying to remove that mindset, and I think we did great work there. And out of that came a lot of beautiful things. A lot of different organizations birthed. A lot of different directions. We had the success of Hope Fest here in Tucson, which Hope Network was a proud member of Community Renewal, a member organization that has an umbrella of tax exemption that other nonprofits can be brought up underneath. We were one of those member organizations, your first member organization. So what you've done in your lifetime has certainly shifted, the way we do things in Tucson, particularly the faith-based community, how we can look outward and not so inward and siloed. And I just think that Tucson is a lot better off as far as collaboration. Think about it. When we started, 20 years ago, it's nothing like it used to be.
Well, and can I interrupt you?
Yes, yeah.
So in bragging on you, you have been committed to, we were looking at a dream center, prayed about that, and then you got hired by the Gospel Rescue Mission, which your grandfather started. It's amazing. We see God's hand in so many things.
Yeah.
That he facilitated, that he did miracles, that he's the one that brought stuff about. But we won't probably see the whole picture till we get to heaven. But that's the thing that I am amazed with you and what you've done. The go big or go home, that's you. And you're phenomenal in terms of what you've done. And this place is phenomenal. The stories that you were giving the other day at the coffee shop. Yeah. It's amazing how you've walked in faith and God has shown his favor. And I just am so blown away,
Well, this is what we dreamed about, know, and I was promised myself I wasn't get emotional during this interview, but this is what we prayed and hoped for, and God presented it in a different package. Surprising, right? That he doesn't do things our way. And but this is it. This is God's work. Yes, God uses people, but there is no way earthly possible that this would have came to pass, unless it was, by the grace and the hand of God that collectively put it together. And what an impact, it's making on the lives that we serve. And I include you because you serve the same population we serve. I want to also talk about your incredible micro-lending program, which gives small loans to people at a zero interest to get them, definitely a hand up. And but one of the things that you do for them is you take them through financial literacy and financial planning, because most people are in this situation because they've never had a budget. They don't know how to manage their money. And so how much money have you given over the years that you've done it? And tell maybe a story about somebody that's been helped through microlending.
Well, I'll give you the very first one. So the Fielders came in, and these are things where I was learning back 20 years ago. And she worked with Young Lives, and her husband was a deadbeat dad, which means that they had fathered kids out of wedlock. And Dave Defer, who just died, did you know that? And so Dave Defer did In and Up, which was a homeless ministry. Yeah. And so one of the things that happened in terms of that was on the lending, when Terry came in, they took all the money out of her savings, all the money out of her checking, and the last paycheck 2 weeks before Christmas, and they had 3 kids.
Wow.
So I called California, and I said, they made all their payments for the last 3 years. And the lady goes, I can do anything I damn well please. And I said, I'm white, I have money, and I'm educated. And she immediately apologized. But, we did In and Up, and we did all these things where we saw that people were oppressing the poor. And you have probably hundreds of stories on that at this point in time, because they don't know and they don't have any power. Right. So part of advocating was doing that. So out of that, I wasn't sure what to do. So that's where we started the micro lending. So I did counseling with them for a year, and out of that, the educational piece is what you're talking about. Most people in America are financially illiterate, even if they're middle class. So we had 40% of the homes in receivership in the downturn in 07 and 08. So we saw a lot of people, we were at Cass's during that time, we saw a lot of people lose their homes and their cars there because of not knowing, financial stuff. So we did the micro lending, and we took Deuteronomy 15, 1 through 11, and what we did was we decided that we would lend money to people. We lent them $3,000, the Fielders, $3,000, and at no interest, and they paid it off in a year. So it was a phenomenal thing, but we spent a lot of time, and that's the hard part, as you know, spending time with the individuals, because there's too many of them. So what happened with them is that she ended up owing the medical community $28,000. So she came to me and she goes, I want the money back. And I said, I can't do it. But I had worked with, all these stories. I had worked with another attorney. I called him up and I said, I've got this couple. And he goes, so what do they need? I said, they need, Lynn called it a nastygram. They need a nastygram from you after you've read the letter, and we want them to reverse their position. They dropped the $28,000, and the Fielders bought their first home in their late 40s. So the micro lending is, you're right, it's to empower people so they can do better. If you're middle class, you can go to the bank and get, a loan. But you can't get a loan to pay off things if you're poor. So we have done hundreds at this point in time of interviews and hundreds of microloans. So I don't know what the number is, but
Yeah.
we've done lots and lots of them.
Incredible. So why do you, let's talk about why it's important as followers of Jesus to help those that are struggling in life.
So you've always had this heart, and I'm sure that you're telling the story. But the issue for me growing up in California was most middle and upper middle class people divide out by where they live. So when you're reading the Gospels, you see Jesus chosen is one of the things that everybody's watching. You see
Right.
Jesus being committed to the marginalized. I don't think you can sit with people that are hurting and not be touched by them. So if you've read a lot of scripture and a lot of the books on helping the marginalized, it touches you. You end up going, what God wants is He wants me to serve. And if I'm to
Right.
serve, I'm to serve those that have the greatest need.
Because God created the church to take care of people, not the government.
Which
So-
is the hard part, because a lot of times, like, I think you know this story. I was talking to a HUD person in the 90s, and they said, hell will freeze over before the government gives you guys any money.
Right.
And then what happened is Charitable Choice came in, and Linda was very, very essential. Bush was essential.
Yep.
You had a lot of people that made the commitment, and out of that, what happened was the government then didn't even check our credentials
Right.
on a lot of the stuff.
Right.
We got grants we got grant money from the government without them even checking.
Right.
So it changed radically within 10 years.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that I had, have gone through that evolution, of Tucson and the church, and how important that work was back then and continues to be important as we sit here and speak. So, Randy, thank you for being with us. There is one last question.
All right.
And this is a difficult question, but because there's not one thing. But if you could do one thing to immediately impact the homeless crisis, what would that be?
Well, you've been bringing it up through our interview. I think if the church steps up more, if you empower people to accept their calling, then that's part of our mission statement. It's a focus on empowering the church to take the responsibility that Christ has called them to take. And that would be probably the thing that I would love to see. That'll make me cry.
I agree. So, Randy Reynolds, I love you.
Love
I
you too.
appreciate you. You're an institution in this town and beyond. So we're grateful to have you. Thank you for being at Conversations on a Bench with me.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.